So this is a must listen. 49ers defensive coordinator Robert Saleh absolutely loves his new edge rusher, Bryce Huff. Saleh even compared him to Mariano Rivera, the greatest closer of all time.
Elite pass rusher. Closes games. He's people want to say that all he does is rush the passer, but all Mariano Rivera did was close ninth innings.
So if you didn't understand the 49ers plan back in March, it should be crystal clear now. The 49ers were attempting to rebuild their terrible run defense first before adding the finishing touches to their pass rush, because you can't have any fun if you don't stop the run. And Robert Saleh obviously thinks very, very highly of the new trade acquisition, Bryce Huff. Saleh says elite pass rusher. Great. Huff has a resume from 2023 when he played under Saleh with the top pass rush win rate in the league to suggest that the 49ers defensive coordinator is onto something. But if you can't stop the run, if you're as bad as the 49ers were in that phase of the game last season, number 29, then pass rush doesn't even matter. That's why the 49ers went and acquired run stoppers through the NFL draft this offseason first. Mykel Williams out of Georgia, one of the best run stoppers in the NFL draft. The 49ers actually believe that he sets the best edge out of any prospect. Then they got Alfred Collins, who's got the 7-foot wingspan out of Texas, another really good player who can perform against the run. And of course, CJ West completely changed Indiana's run defense. He might have been one of the single best interior run defenders in all of college football. So if you look at the 49ers roster, all the green on it, those are rookies at that defensive line position. Those were the guys meant to improve what was terribly languishing about the 49ers run defense in 2024. Malik Collins out. Leonard Floyd out. Javon Hargrave out. In with the new, and now in with Bryce Huff. The Huff trade between the 49ers and the Eagles is fascinating because it involves two of the best front offices in football reaching an agreement on a cost split for an intriguing player who is still in his prime years. That's not easy to do in the NFL. But you cannot argue two things. One, Huff was an awesome pass rushing specialist just 2 seasons ago. And that's when he was working in a 4-3 system under Robert Saleh with the New York Jets. He got a chance to put both of his hands in the dirt, 4-point stance, and roar around the edge to get to the quarterback, really generating power with his speed. And he had that cross chop move as well that generated those 10 sacks and that league high pass rush win rate for New York. The other thing that you can't argue is that Huff did not perform well for the Philadelphia Eagles after signing with them. 3 years, up to $51 million, but he was a healthy scratch in the Super Bowl. So what gives? It turns out that one team's trash can be another team's treasure. The price just has to be right. And the 49ers and the Eagles found the correct price. And that is a day 3 2026 draft pick, somewhere between the 4th and the 7th round, heading from San Francisco to Philadelphia, and a cost split of Huff's contract. Philadelphia committed $17 million fully guaranteed to Bryce Huff in 2025. The 49ers obviously weren't willing to pay that because Huff is coming off of an unproductive season, had a torn wrist ligament that forced him to miss 5 games for the Eagles. But the Eagles obviously didn't want to pay that either because he definitely didn't fit in Vic Fangio's system. So the agreement that the 49ers and the Eagles reached was $9.05 million is paid by Philadelphia, $7.95 million is paid for by the 49ers. Add those two numbers together, it equals $17 million fully guaranteed. As part of the agreement, the 49ers inherit all of Huff's remaining contract, so he remains under contract with San Francisco through 2026. 2 years of team control for the 49ers, cost of $7.95 million in 2025, and the cost of a day 3 draft pick in 2026. Now, for comparison, the cost just this season for Bryce Huff, $7.95 million, is less than the average per year that Sansom Ebukam is making from the Indianapolis Colts. That's $8 million. That is above rotational defensive line status, but it's B-list edge rusher status in the NFL. Bryce Huff is not expected to play 80 to 90% of snaps. In fact, I would argue that he'll be in on 35% of snaps if things are going well for the 49ers. This is where we look into different usages between what Huff was asked to do in Philadelphia and what he was asked to do under Robert Saleh in New York and what he's going to be asked to do under Robert Saleh in San Francisco. It's all about these defensive roles. 49ers fans should know that Philly, coordinated by Vic Fangio on the defensive side of the ball, is running a markedly different scheme than the 49ers. Vic Fangio runs a 3-4. We saw that Bryce Huff was doing most of his pass rushing standing up, not in that 4-point stance where he gets it's like a track start where he really gets to rear back and shoot out of a catapult. He's got one of the fastest get off times in the entire NFL. So you could see why he likes that track start. So the Eagles just trying to make him a 3-down player in a 3-4 system that didn't really fit his skill set. They thought he had the talent to make that transition, but it turned out that, maybe he did have that talent, but the Eagles weren't willing to wait because they had such a loaded defensive line and they went and won the Super Bowl anyway. So they wanted to offload this guy before paying him the full total of $17 million guaranteed in 2025. And they did. And the 49ers, well, they're a team that runs a 4-3 that gives Huff a chance to put both hands in the dirt, that 4-point stance. And they're a team that has already built the infrastructure to properly absorb Bryce Huff so he doesn't have to play more than 35% of snaps. Here's a look at the 49ers defensive line packages for 2025 in an ideal world. You look at their base defensive line package, Bryce Huff is not going to be part of this. This is something that plays on first down, on many second downs, against running formations or whenever the run is more likely to happen. Of course, you've got Nick Bosa on one of the edges, and then your draft pick, Mykel Williams, he's going to slot in on the other edge. Williams already, the 49ers think, can be a superb run defender at the NFL level. In an ideal world, they'll see Alfred Collins, their second-round pick, and they will see CJ West, who is their fourth-round pick, slot in as starters in the base package. Now, that won't necessarily happen right away for San Francisco, but that is the idea for this team, having spent all this draft capital on defensive linemen. They want that run defense solidified for the long term so that opposing offenses have to face second down and long and third down and long much more often than they did in 2024. When that happens, you can bring your lighter package onto the field. We call this either the turbo package, the lightning package. I think that's Chris Kacerik's terminology for it, or the NASCAR package that was made popular by the New York Giants, who beat Tom Brady in the Super Bowl when the Patriots were 18-0. The NASCAR package, that's 4 defensive ends lining up across the entire defensive line. So 2 defensive ends moving into defensive tackle. The 49ers told us very clearly when they drafted Mykel Williams that they loved his ability to rush from the inside. So you're going to see Mykel with those long arms working against guards who typically have shorter arms. And Mykel already showed some pass rushing success at Georgia in such an alignment. He played in a different scheme, but this particular part of his game, this is something that Mykel did a lot of at Georgia, playing and rushing against the inside. And the 49ers believe that can translate to the NFL level. Then we can't forget about Yetur Gross-Matos, a free agency addition who came from a 3-4 system, more like a Fangio system in Carolina before the 2024 season, and was one of the few bright spots for the 49ers defense. Yetur actually won NFC Defensive Player of the Week honors with his 3 sacks against the Chicago Bears. The 49ers see him as an inside-out pass rusher, and maybe I should say outside-in, because base downs, Yetur can play on the outside. NASCAR package, lightning package, pass rushing package, he could move to the inside. Moving Yetur Gross-Matos and Mykel Williams inside opens up a spot on the opposite side of Nick Bosa for Bryce Huff. This is a dedicated pass rushing specialist that fits into a very specific role. As you can see, this role is so specific that it does not even challenge the playing time of the 3 drafted rookies for the 49ers. Mykel Williams has a completely different job. CJ West has a completely different job. Alfred Collins has a completely different job. You don't go to the dentist's office for knee surgery. You don't trust Bryce Huff with run defense. But that's not the point. The reason that the 49ers made this move now, and I'm sure at the right price, they would have made it earlier, but they were finally able to get the right price now, is because they have been able to take care of that run defense. They've been able to take care of their dental needs. Now you take care of the knee surgery needs by going to Bryce Huff. The run defense is solved. Now the pass rush needed that extra cherry on top, and the 49ers get it in this situation. Now, Robert Saleh's fingerprints are obviously all over this defense. If we look at somebody like CJ West, he's evocative of DJ Jones' body type, that one technique in the middle. If we look at somebody like Alfred Collins, he's evocative of DeForest Buckner's body type. Not quite as tall, but bigger for that three technique in the middle, defensive tackle position on base downs. And Michael Williams, well, his body is evocative of Eric Armstead's, and Eric Armstead played that outside in combination for the 49ers to great effectiveness. And that really started under Chris Kasarik and Robert Saleh. And that leads me to perhaps my final point. And it's that you got to credit both the Eagles and the 49ers here. The 49ers have the player development system in place, and they've also built the roster so that they can absorb Bryce Huff in a very efficient way. They've built the run defense, right? And now they needed a very specific pass rushing specialist. You could slot Bryce Huff right in there, and guess what? He gets to work with Robert Saleh, and we already know the results have been good when working with Robert Saleh, and he gets to work with Chris Kasarik. I can't believe people aren't talking about that more. Chris Kasarik has rehabbed so many defensive linemen, and this guy, Bryce Huff, is only 2 seasons away from leading the league in the pass rush win rate. So the 49ers have created a perfect hole for Bryce Huff to potentially fit in. Meanwhile, you also have to credit Howie Roseman and the Philadelphia Eagles. They did not subscribe to sunk cost fallacy. Yes, they had committed a lot of guaranteed money to Bryce Huff, but no, he didn't fit in their system. They were smart enough to cut bait sooner and recoup something from the 49ers. Both teams are happy that the other team is taking care of some of Bryce Huff's salary. They had to find that middle ground. That's what a negotiation is all about. But the Eagles obviously thrilled that the 49ers are willing to take some of the Bryce Huff cost off their hands, and they get a day 3 draft pick. And the 49ers are really happy that they get a promising edge rusher still in his prime years. He turned 27 years old in April. They're happy that they get that for the cost of $7.95 million. So both sides deserve credit here. This is business 101 at its finest. Football is all about situations. The Eagles have a different situation than the 49ers, but you can try to pair those situations together for the good of a trade by negotiating a good deal. And as two of the best front offices in football, I don't think it's particularly surprising that the Eagles and the 49ers were both pragmatic enough to make this work with the edge rusher, Bryce Huff.